it's okay. Check, check, 1, 2, 3, check. I think it's okay. Got it. इधर ही रहने देते हैं, ठीक है.
Oh, yeah.
I know this lady.
I'm muted.
A warm welcome to everybody here. And we can finally commence our evening. Our esteemed chief guest is here. Dr. Giri, Meera Khanna, escorting the chief guest, Dr. Karan Singh, and our esteemed speakers on stage. I thank everyone for joining us here this evening, this beautiful evening, and taking out time. And now I request Dr. Giri to please honor the guests on stage, Chief Guest Dr. Karan Singh, Bhina Sikri, and Usha Munshiji from the IIC. Dr. Giri.
My dear, I would not take the name of Dr. Karan Singh because he is dear already, but I must acknowledge the dear all my friends who are sitting in the front rows who have contributed to this book. Thank you very much. Dr. Karan Singh, it was a pleasure. It has always been a pleasure knowing you, and I was just telling Dr. Karan Singh that I have really known him for nearly 52 years now. And in these 52 years, I've admired him. And now that I'm old enough, I can frankly say that I've always loved him. It won't be misunderstood, I'm sure. It could have been because I'm practically 7 or 8 years younger than him. क्या चीज़ है? हाँ. No, better. Please sit down. No, please.
Could we please have a round of applause as Dr. Giri.
I made these myself, all these kursis for all my contributors, and this is, most of them were elderly, so this is for good health of everybody. भाई वो पेज कहाँ गया? रेनू? हाँ, okay. I have great pleasure in welcoming Bhina Sikri here, who has been a great strength to the country, and she has really contributed to the forum as an ambassador and as a secretary to the Government of India, then as a convener to South Asia Women's Network. She is the vice chairman of South Asia Foundation and the Indo-French bilateral commercial and economic relations. She is also, she wears many hats. She was the first secretary, press information and culture, head of the Chancery, a dynamic ambassador whom I admired 20 years ago, or perhaps 15. How many years is that since? God. Oh, and I'm very, very happy to have her here today with us, because she has been such a good, for the women's movement also we admired, because in those days also it was very rare for women to reach those heights. Thank you very much for coming. Meera is there, who is the Vice President of the Guild of Service, and she has helped towards editing this book today, which is published and which will be released by Dr. Karan Singh shortly. I welcome her here. and our dear friend Usha Munshi from, first. Mrs. Munshi, who is also here with us from the IIC. Thank you very much, Mrs. Munshi.
And now I invite Dr. Giri to please give the welcome address and honor all our contributors who have spared their valuable time to write and be present here physically. Dr. Giri is one of India's first known gender rights activists, as we all know, and she founded the Guild of Service 50 years ago. Her work on the issue of widows and widowhood is acclaimed both nationally and internationally. An institution creator, she also founded the War Widows Association and Women's Initiative for Peace in South Asia. Recognizing her immense contribution, the government of India has awarded her the Padma Bhushan. So a round of applause for Dr. Giri.
Friends, this is an old dupatta of Meera's. She was wanting to cut it and make into bags. She brought it to the guild and said, I said, nonsense. You just give it to me and I like wearing old clothes. Thank you, Meera.
The publisher of this book, Khanna books from UK, we want to honor Dr. Giri.
Oh, thank you so much. Beautiful flowers. Parijata, the favorite of Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you. While I'm very, very, very happy to have a few of the authors here with us today, I'm also very, very sad that many of them are not with me today here. Not the people who are, but they're not here in the world at all. I was looking forward to all of them to be here today. They were very good friends of mine. I'll just tell you their names and what they did. Dr. Shanta, for example, she is, I knew her as a perhaps 25-year-old lady when I went to Chennai. At that time, she had an asylum for mental illness people, which was very rare. This was about 60, 70 years ago. And the work that she has done, she made a cancer hospital in Chennai, and it is called the only cancer best hospital in the world today. It was recognized. I miss her very much. She was a doctor, cancer specialist, executive chairperson of the Cancer Society for 50 years, WHO advisor, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, and the Raman Magsaysay Award winner. I miss her very much today. My second very good friend, to whom I went to school with Durgabai Deshmukh, and we were together. She did immense work in the All India Women's Conference. In a place called Kakinada, she has established a huge women's training center, which is running. She passed away a week ago. And I lost a good friend, Yechuri's mother. Kalpakam. Another very, very good friend of mine, I had known her for 50 years, last 50 years, dynamic woman, poetry, this thing, women's empowerment, feminism. I can't tell you what she didn't do. And I miss her today very much. Her name is Kamla Basin. She was an institution builder. She has got so many institutions to her credit, United Nations organizations, and here, everywhere, South Asia Foundation. She did a lot of work. I'll miss her today. My tribute to her is a poem that she wrote in this book. We are not keeping 1 month silence because it's a celebration for all those people who have gone. And I hope Meera will have a celebration like that for me also. बुजर्गियत मेरे बालों की सफेदी दिखाती है मेरा अंदरूनी निखार. Kamla wrote this last time in this book of ours. मेरे चेहरे की झुर्रियां दर्शाती है मेरे तजुर्बात के उभार. बार बार मेरा भूलना बताता है कि मेरी हार्ड डिस्क अब भर गई है. चलने की रफ्तार में कमी आई है. कहती है अब जल्दी जल्दी कहीं जाने की नहीं है जरूरत। सो खुश हूं मैं, बुढ़ापे की इन निशानियों के साथ मैं खुश हूं। मौत की क्या फिक्र है, मौत तो एक जश्न होता है। This is written by Kamla. And friends, a very, very great welcome to all of you today here. With great sense of appreciation and humility, I would like to acknowledge our valuable contributors who made the book happen today. Some of them are in a great rush to go away, so I'm really reading it fast now, especially for Zina and for Aruna Vasudev. Many of them are here in the room with us today, and I would like to acknowledge their gracious presence. Aruna Dalmia. My Humsafar, who has walked with me in the thorny path since the past 50 years. She's the vice president also of the Guild of Service. She's established a great school for the differently abled people. And it's an integrated school, and we congratulate her. Aruna Vasudev. Asha Das. I had met. I had met Asha Das about in 1970. You were.
You don't have to reveal
Yeah.
the age.
Okay. I won't. She's also from my college, a junior to me, from the Isabella Thoban College, Lucknow, and we are very proud of her. My alma mater is now running a school for the underprivileged children, and she and me, we are working together in that program. And she's perhaps one of the few IAS officers who is from my college. There are 4 or 5, but she's one of them. And maybe the first, perhaps, I don't know, not first. Thank you, Asha. Thank you. I have with me, Mr. Sajjanar is here?
Yes.
A brilliant diplomat and a speaker, and we share the common mandate of communal harmony. I'm very, very happy to have you with us here. He has been very active in all spheres of peace and communal harmony. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sajjanar ji. Thank you. Dr. Day has come? Dr. Day is not here? Okay. George Matthew? Our go-to person for political empowerment and friend of all in the Hunger Project with me, and then established so many institutions and institution builder. Thank you, George. Thank you so much. Thank you. Do we have Matthew here with us? इधर He's a dear friend and dear brother to me. We are together. He's also a trustee of the Guild of Service, a philosopher, guide, and whatever work for the elderly has to be done in this country, he's a major part of it. And I welcome him today here very much. Thank you, Matthew, for being here today. And thank you, Mrs. Matthew, for being his inspiration. Mani has come, Mani Shankar.
No, money is not here.
Dr. Mohinder Singh? Yes. बैग पे नाम देख के देना. I have known Dr. Mohinder Singh ji also for a pretty long time, for nearly 50 years now, and I've been also in the Punjab Academy. क्या नाम जी? Guru Nanak Academy? No. Acha.
Anyway, what's in a name?
No, what's in a name? Okay. Very, very gender sensitive, and we have been together in the journey of development of all. And I'm very happy that you are here today with us. And can I also put in here that Mrs. Mohinder Singh, who is sitting behind you, is actually in front of you. I would like to, Mr. Basin has been left out there. Mr. Lalit Basin has come. Yes.
He's here.
A brilliant, brilliant legal mind, much decorated, documented his life experiences with legal precision. And we are so happy. Apart from all this, my association goes back to him because his daughter and my daughter are very, very dear friends. Mani is not Mohinder Singh ji. Padma? Yeah. Padma Venkatraman. She is devoted. Acha, yeah. She has devoted her life to the underprivileged. She is in Chennai, but today her sister Lakshmi is on her behalf. She is taking this. Lakshmi herself is a very dynamic woman and also a trustee of the Guild of Service. May I now, Ramesh Masherkar is here?
No.
Mr. Masherkar has come?
These are the-
Yeah, I know. Saroja has come? I'm going through the list. Saroja? No. Saroja Vaidyanathan is not here. She said she'll be here. Okay. Shanno? Shanno ji? बहुत बहुत thank you ji. Shanno Khurana. The moment I say that name, Saregama Padanisa, Sanirapamagare comes. Shanno ji. Thank you, Shanno ji. Tremendous grace, incredible voice, and command over musical systems. I have known her for nearly 60 or 70 years now. Each time I'm aging myself also. I'm very happy that, another name I didn't take. Oh, Sundarlal ji is not with us today, Sundarlal Bahuguna ji. He also wrote a chapter. On his behalf, may I ask Miss Meera? Meera, where is she? Meera Shiva? Yes. Has Uma come? Uma Tuli? Okay, friends. Last but not the least, my dear brother and guide, philosopher, brilliant lawyer, and his wife happened to be the first vice president of the Guild of Service 60 years ago. May I now honor Murli Bhai. Manali, his daughter, is also a trustee with the Guild of Service.
Murli Bhai has been saying that he feels very young on World Elders Day.
Murli Bhai, I'm coming for lunch. Jaldi khatam karenge hum. Friends, as I've already told you all, the Guild of Service goes back. Its journey started 50 years ago in a small little room of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, right behind somewhere near the quarters of the working people. And from there it grew. And today we have got property in all states of India, practically our own, donated by people for the work that we have done. We have not spent anything to buy those buildings, but our work continues. And we are very happy that we have also got a consultative status with the ECOSOC of the United Nations. Our points of activity in the beginning were Bakhtawarpur, Khizrabad, Shahid Nagar, Rajiv Gandhi Camp, Harijan Basti, Kotla Mubarakpur, Tajpur Village. Today we have shelter homes and homes for destitute, vocational training, family counseling centers from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, nearly every state. Our capacity building center, we have made the bags that you carry today are made by our women. The badges that you see today, the yellow ribbon in that badge is also made by us at home, without expense of anything, from our own girls. And our projects, we have nearly empowered more than 1 million women till now, which is really, in 50 years' time, it's not much, but we are happy that we were able. The satisfaction that I got is more than a compensation of crores and crores of rupees that we get. And perhaps one of the secrets, mantras, is, Saroja, you're late. Okay, we will honor you later. Okay. Our geriatric nursing courses are very good, and it's been helping many people. This was given, I want to recognize Ghazala Minai here, who was a secretary for the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And we have run under the scheme with a certificate from the Government of India, geriatric courses for the elderly, which is very successful, even though we are not getting a grant now, but we still run it. And apart from that, we have got a project called the Sana project, where we have empowered nearly 300 women to making them into small entrepreneurs. And they all become, whether they're making poshak of Lord Krishna, or they are making these kinds of plants, nursery plants, or they are making clothes, or what else do they do? Meera, you will tell later on. Our main work has been to see that widows are not really neglected, especially widows in temple cities like Vrindavan or Varanasi or Tirupati and Kanya, you'll be Kanyakumari, you'll be surprised the condition of widows there is also very bad. Today, I'm happy that many of the things that we had fought for 40 years ago is less now, and women are coming out. No tonsuring of the hair is done by women. They are not wearing white clothes anymore. They are wearing bangles and tika both, which are all forbidden according to, no, Hindu religion doesn't say all that, but according to the custom. So we are happy that we have been able to achieve that. Due to the paucity of time, I'm not going to get into political empowerment, local empowerment, peace initiatives, and advocacy, and national, international advocacy. On behalf of the Guild, I'm proud and I'm happy and satisfied that I have traveled to 52 universities and lectured all over the world on the issues pertaining to widows and for peace. These two have been our main two focus areas. We have met nearly about another 20 lakhs of people abroad also who have been lectured in the universities. And I'm also happy to tell you that about 30 universities has even given a doctorate to us, and many, many other things that are not really to say. With these words, I think I complete my experiences of my journey of doing work. Whatever time God has given us, we will still keep working hard for that. And Meera is there, Lakshmi is there, Manali is there. I hope all these young people will take up the issue of widowhood and marginalized women and empowerment of women. With these words, I congratulate my team. My staff has been with me for 30 years, 25 years, Kalpana there, and Sharla there, and Renu there, and Ramveer is outside, sitting outside. And with a very skeleton staff, we are working throughout the country. We have and we run 5 schools, the schools till the class 5 everywhere. And we are very happy. Sorry, it took a longer time than I was supposed to take. I was supposed to take 10 minutes, but I've taken more. Thank you so much. Thank you, friends, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Giri. We honor our valuable contributors who share their mantras for aging impactfully with environmentally beneficial plants, symbolic of good health, most essential for aging gracefully. Now, we come to that moment.
Saroja is here.
Oh, Saroja,
One.
Shank. Oh, Zina Swarajji. I'm very happy Zina Swarajji is also a vice president. Since 50 years she has been with us. And she's an institution by herself, the work that she does. Thank you, Zina. Zina, it's went according to alphabetical order.
Wonderful to have so many invaluable contributors today. And now we come to the moment that we've all been awaiting. We invite Dr. Karan Singh to release the book officially.
Book lao, Kalpana. आप खड़े मत होइए, बैठे बैठे करिए। इधर इधर फूलों को ऐसे कर दिए। The release. We don't tie up a book because Saraswati cannot be tied. सबको दे दो। इधर से दो, इधर दे दो। Now we can take a photograph here. Can we? Yeah. There should be one group photograph with the authors. Long time?
And now we invite Professor Guptara of Pippa Rann Books, UK, to speak on the unique positioning of the book. He will be joining us virtually from London. If we could just connect him, please.
Thank you.
Prabhu Guptara is a distinguished professor of global business management and public policy, executive director, organizational development of Wolfsburg, the platform for executive and business development, a subsidiary of UBS AG, formerly the Union Bank of Switzerland. He now has a portfolio of activities that include being an independent company director, an author, a prize-winning poet, and a public speaker, and of course, a successful publisher. Could we have a round of applause for Prabhu Guptara?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that very kind introduction, and to Dr. Giri and to Meera ji for our excellent and happy cooperation. Their role, of course, being the excellent content of the book. My role being the rather more superficial one of financing the book, getting the material checked for odd spelling mistakes and things like that. They creep into any book. The cover designed and choosing the quality of the paper and the size of the book and getting it properly formatted for the printing press and other such superficialities. So as the publisher of Pippa Rann Books, which is an imprint of Salt Desert Media Group, a UK company, itself a member of the Independent Publishers Guild, it has been a great pleasure to work together with the editors, and I am very happy, very pleased that they are happy with the quality of the editing and production of the book, as I hope you will all be when you get hold of the book. Of course, some of you have already done so. But I must say, I must ask Gustakhi Maaf for any and all mistakes and anything which is not elegant in the book. So please, Gustakhi Maaf. Now, I have been asked to speak about what is unique about the book. And I thought I might highlight only 3 things about the book, because there are 3 syllables to the word mantra, and therefore it might be easier to remember. Of course, the 3 syllables are ma, na, and tra. So, ma, the syllable ma, stands for the motto of the book, the catchphrase or the cry, the key sentiment of the book, the key message of the book. So, what is the motto? What is the key message of the book? It is that growing old is a challenge, but we can rise to meet it and overcome it with the gifts that God can give us, gifts of peace and joy and productivity and care and love. So that is the main message of the book, and that is the ma from mantra. The na from mantra, the second unique thing about the book, in my view, is the number of eminent contributors. 50 of them, some of whom have been honored today, whether personally, physically, or in remembrance, sadly, today. But the important thing is not the number of contributors, because contributors can also be clones. Here, the important thing is the variety of the contributors. Any number can be unidimensional, so to speak, but this is a multidimensional number. A variety is, of course, inevitable because, after all, there is, at any one time, for example, only one chief of staff of the army. So variety is unavoidable. But I am just emphasizing what a range of backgrounds and expertise and wisdom is contained and represented in this book. So ma is for the main message of the book, and na is, of course, for the number and variety of the contributions. And tra, now tra I am going to twist and distort a little bit, because the sound tra does not exist in English. So I am translating it into tra, traditions. You will find, of course, various mantras and shlokas and from the Vedas, from the Gita, and so on, which are quoted in the book. But you will also find modern quotes. You will also find key thoughts from various international scriptures and thinkers. So the book relates to our traditions, but is also willing to question where they should be modified in the light of modern circumstances, modern needs, modern thinking. So traditions, but also transformation. Now you may say, isn't this a little bit like the first word, ma? What is the message of the book? That is also transformation, no? So let me just try to clarify the difference between the ma and the tra in the following way. The ma for the message is about the transformation of our individual attitude to aging. But the third point, tra, traditions, is to do with the fact that the transformation in our individual attitudes is connected with, and if there really is a transformation in our individual attitudes, it will also result in the transformation of our national attitudes. Because our national attitudes also need to be transformed and modernized and globalized. So the modernization, transformation and globalization of our traditions is also important consequence, which, God willing, there may be at least a small contribution towards it from this book. So this book is a highly useful book for individuals, but it is also a very significant book for our nation as a whole. At least that is my humble view of it. And I hope that these three unique points about the book, M for the message of the book, N for the number, the multidimensional number, the variety of contributions in the book, and Thr for the traditions and transformation can be kept in mind by you, by all of us, as we think about the book and discuss the book with our friends, our neighbors, our relatives, professional colleagues. We can keep these perhaps 3 points in mind. Thank you very much, Dr. Giri ji. Thank you, very much, Meera ji. Thank you very much, Dr. Karan Singh ji. And indeed, the chairman, the master of ceremonies, and all the contributors to the book. Thank you very much for your cooperation in the book and in the event today, and giving me the possibility of speaking and contributing to the event today. Thank you very much. Namaste and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Professor Guptara, for sharing your most interesting and enlightening thoughts with us. And now we invite Mr. Fali Nariman, a valuable contributor to the book, to speak on the experience of imparting shared wisdom. And he is joining us virtually from right here in Delhi.
Thank you.
Mr. Fali Sam Nariman,
Thank
a
you.
warm welcome to you. He's India's best known constitutional lawyer and has served as the Additional Solicitor General of India, and has also been nominated a member of the Rajya Sabha. Among his many books are India's Legal System, Can It Be Saved? And Before Memory Fades, an autobiography. Recognizing his immense contribution, the Government of India awarded him the Padma Bhushan. He was also awarded the Justice Prize 2002 by the Peter Gruber Foundation, and has been named by the International Bar Association headquarters in London as a living legend of the law. Can we have a round of applause?
We had the pleasure of having Batsy with us all these years. She was a friend, guide. I loved her absolutely. Thank you, Fali, for being there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mohini Giri and her extraordinary team. My good friend, Dr. Karan Singh. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the International Day of Older Persons, something not to be sniffed at. The older persons have already been cheered by good news of yesterday. And the good news of yesterday was the announcement of the worldwide release of the James Bond film with a soul-heartening title, No Time to Die. There you have the assurance that the present, at least this month or this year, is no time for the elderly to die. If at all, that will come much later. But who is an older person? Bob Hope once famously said, when the candles cost more than the birthday cake, you know you have become an older person, which certainly and definitely includes my dear friend Murli Bandare, whom I see at the IIC, and includes myself as well. This is one good reason why I should not open my mouth and put my foot in it. But since I'm programmed this evening to say a few words, let me get them off my chest. To the most convivial gathering of older persons at the IIC and those listening in their homes and offices, I must give you some good news. And the good news is this. At the Times Literary Fest earlier this year, a very prominent English writer, author of a book which has been adapted into a movie, publicly stated to a correspondent of the Times of India the following, and just please listen in. I wonder, she said, what's going to happen to us when we get older, because there is not going to be enough money to take care of us simply because we have lived so long. This is how the author, one Deborah Mogachich, continued. I have decided, she said, to outsource the elderly to lovely India, which is so cheap, so warm, so welcoming, and so respectful of the elderly. And this is a great deal better than they are treated in England, unquote. Quite a glowing tribute to our country and to its 1.4 billion inhabitants. It certainly gladdened my heart, and I pass it on to you, hoping it gladdens yours. My second compulsion to say a few words this evening is that I have been fortunate to have received only last week a book from my grandson-in-law. I have no son-in-law, but my granddaughter's husband, Rohan Alva, presented me with what has proved to be a most interesting and invaluable little book. This is the book. Its title is Ikigai, and it has a subtitle, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life. It is published only in the United Kingdom by Penguin Random House, and it is already an international bestseller. Our book, just released, compiled by Mohini Giri and her enthusiastic team, contains mantras from us all. But the book presented to me by my grandson-in-law, Ikigai, is different. It is about how to ensure that our aging also has a physical side to it. According to this book, the secret to extended longevity is, first, finding a purpose in life, which in Japanese is called Ikigai. That's why the title. Next, the authors of this book recommend a healthy diet, such as replacing junk food with fruits. But more importantly, they recommend that they say in Japanese, hara hachi bu, before and after eating, which expression the people in Japan repeat and say, and this means, I must remember to fill my belly only up to 80%. In other words, not to keep eating until you are full, but to stop eating when you are starting to feel full. Because, as the book says, it gives pleasure in the short term and makes you happier in the long term. The book also tells us that in the Japanese island of Okinawa, for every 100,000 inhabitants, there are at least 25 people over the age of 100 years who keep repeating the mantra, hara hachi bu. Third, physical exercise is important according to Ikigai. It need not be strenuous, but exercise at any age is a must. In other words, don't spend too much time sitting, whether at home or at work. Keep moving, because the muscles in your body, along with the neurons in your brain, get stimulated only when you keep moving. Ladies and gentlemen, one last comment. On the occasion of the Golden Jubilee of the Guild for Service, I have a request to make to you all. Please be good enough to join me in purchasing a dozen to 20 copies of this book, in which we have all contributed in writing, to ensure a wider distribution. It will help the Guild for Service if, in addition to our written contribution, we also make this relatively small financial contribution as well. It will provide Mohini Giri and a dedicated team of workers the continued incentive for doing what they already do so efficiently and so well. But this is only a recommendation. Your attendance here or your participation at this function does not make it one bit compulsory for you to purchase copies of the book. It is only my request. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I conclude my oral intervention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Palisam Nariman, for your wonderful words. And now I invite Meera Khanna, one of the two editors, to speak on the book. And she will be accompanied by Renee Singh, who will sing the Sanskrit shlokas. Writer, poet, and gender rights activist, Meera Khanna is trustee and executive vice president of the Guild of Service. She has worked as a consultant to the High-Level Committee on Status of Women, Government of India, served as a member on the Expert Committee on Widows constituted by the Supreme Court of India. Among her widely acclaimed books is one on 14 first-person accounts of those who have seen the genesis of the conflict in the Kashmir Valley, titled In a State of Violent Peace. And we have with us Renee Singh, who's a trained singer in semi-classical music. Delving into her vast knowledge of music, she curates and designs modules and workshops through poetry and music. She has partnered with UNICEF to create musical stories for community radio in the remote villages of the country and has earned great appreciation for her work in Kashmir with orphan girls affected by terrorism. She is the founding member of Hum, Hamari Urdu Mohabbat.
I'm very happy that she's with us today.
Could we also honor Meera Khanna, please?
बस हो गया होना
नहीं, क्योंकि आपका हुआ नहीं है.
ये ले लो
I'm going there after that. And I'll say, hello. बिल्कुल कह रहा है. He's your grandson.
Respected Dr. Karan Singh, Professor Bhina Sikri, Dr. Mohini Giri, my mentor, guide, and also slave driver. Dr. Usha Munshi, and those who are joining us virtually, Professor Prabhu Guptara, Mr. Fali Nariman, and Ms. Devaki Jain.
Devaki Jain?
Yeah, I said Devaki. Now you know why I said slave driver, no? To edit this book has been a labor of love. It's also been a labor of life. Love because I did it for the guild, and life because within the 400 pages of this book is a wealth of wisdom and knowledge of 50 eminent Indians who have not just lived life for many years, but they have added life to every year that they have lived. This volume is a unique publication because while bookshelves abound in do-it-yourself books, this volume abounds in lived experiences, accumulated wisdom, which is experienced, and accumulated knowledge. As I had the privilege of editing this compendium of lived experiences, there was one common denominator which every one of the 50 contributors reiterated again and again. You can't help getting old. That's natural. But you don't have to be old. That was the message that came across in this book. I'm going to give a small preview into the mantras of positive aging. And in keeping with the title of the book, I'm going to invite Renee Singh to intersperse my preview with Sanskrit shlokas sung in her inimitable voice.
So let's all once just chant Om and get into the space of the mantras. Om. सर्वस्मै स्वल्पं समाजाय सर्वस्वम् सर्वस्मै स्वल्पं समाजाय सर्वस्वं समाजाय सर्वस्वं समाजाय सर्वस्वम्. A little bit for you and everything for others.
A little bit for yourself and everything for others. As the stress of having to prove yourself wears off and the roller coaster ride of material wants and needs finally stops, many of the elderly rediscover themselves by living outside themselves or continue the journey of giving rather than taking. Ela Bhatt, the late Sundarlal Bahuguna, Dr. Mohini Giri, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, Dr. Uma Tuli, George Matthew, Lalita Ramdas, Padma Venkatraman, Dr. V. Shanta, Jyotsna Chatterjee, Dr. Mohinder Singh, Matthew Cherian, Asha Das, and the late Kamla Basin, all of whom have contributed to this book. The list is very long because each one of them lived a journey that gave back to society much, much more than what was expected of them. Truly, they lived up to the Canadian advice of ask not what your country can do for you, but do what you can do for your country. And in the process, they enriched their own lives and proved the longer you live, the more beautiful life becomes.
Yukti yuktam pragrahiya baladapi vichakshana raveravisham vastu kim nadipah prakashit raveravisham vastu kim nadipah prakashit kim nadipah prakashit.
The wise should learn to accept wisdom from anybody, even from a child. Doesn't the small night lamp light up things when the sun cannot? As one lives life in many dimensions, it becomes evident that knowledge knows no bar of status or age. In fact, during the pandemic and the subsequent lockdown, many grandparents took their first baby steps in the digital space, holding the hands of their children and grandchildren. Shovna Narayan, Saroja Vaidyanathan, Rajni Kumar, Dr. Shama Chona, Murlidhar Bandare, Zarina Bhatti, Shanno Khurana, and many more who have contributed to this book, many of them untrammeled by the ego of age or experience, could learn from their youngest pupils, and in the bargain, rise in stature and wisdom. For they realized that we turn not older with years, but newer every day. So each day came with new exciting challenges and opportunities, and excitement that chipped away completely the boredom, which is the canker of old age.
लय संबोधे चिंतम विक्षिप्तम शम्येत पुनः सक्षायम् विजानीयात् सम्प्राप्तं न चालयेत् सक्षायं विजानीयात् सम्प्राप्तं na chalaye.
When the mind is in a state of dullness, stimulate and awaken it. When the awakened mind thus becomes turbulent, calm it down. In the process, recognize the dirt that surfaced. When the mind reaches the state of equanimity, do not disturb it further. That is a translation of the shloka which was just now recited. As the mind learns to tackle the vicissitudes of life, it also learns the art of tranquility, of equanimity, of peace with the world and with oneself, a capacity to like what one gets instead of struggling to get what one likes. In the very erudite and scholarly essays of Dr. Karan Singh, Pascal Alan Nazareth, Padma Seth, Arun Bharatram, Zina Sorabji, Aruna Dalmia, Tara Gandhi Bhattacharya, and Ashok Sajanhar, there is a sense of the calm of life lived well and wellness created through tranquility.
Let the world be happy. And with this, why don't you all chant these 4 small Sanskrit shlokas, which I'm going to recite. Lokaha samastaha sukhini bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhini bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhini bhavantu. Sukhini bhavantu. Sukhini bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhini bhavantu. Sukhini bhavantu. Sukhini bhavantu. Sukhino sukhinam. Sukhino bhavantu. Sukhino bhavantu. Sukhino bhavantu. So let's all once say it loudly. Sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Let the world be happy.
Let the entire world be happy. The trick of aging gracefully is to enjoy it. Truly, Mani Shankar Iyer, Margaret Alva, Fali Nariman, Armaiti Desai, Justice Sujata Manohar, Zakia Zahir, Saida Hamid, Zarina Bhatti, all of them who contributed to this book personify the happiness in being alive. It's not the loud laughter of youth. It's the gentle, tongue-in-cheek smile at the world. It's not the self-focused aspirations of youth, but the expanding vision of the whole world as one family. This book is truly a reflection of what Walt Disney used to say very often. Laughter is timeless, imagination has no age, and dreams are forever. General Sharma, Lieutenant General Oberoi, Lieutenant General Shankar Das, Major General Ian Cardozo, who disciplined themselves into a healthy old age, also proved that the second innings can be even more exciting than the first, much like our cricket team. At this point, I would like to quote the diva, the Italian diva of Hollywood, Sophia Loren. And I quote, "There is a fountain of youth. It is in your mind, your talents, the creativity you bring to your life, and the lives of the people you love. When you learn to tap that source, you will truly have defeated age." Unquote.
In a minute, she's sitting on the stage.
And Sophia Loren should know because she acted in the film The Life Ahead at the age of 86. In conclusion, there is a common linking in India of wisdom and old age. What is this wisdom that comes not with old age, but with the life-turning experiences of living? And I'm going to say something which came to me in the internet, but of course I've hashed it up. When you remember not the cost of an experience, but the experience itself, that is wisdom. When you understand that money has no memory, but experience has memory, that is wisdom. When you use your degrees for more sense, more knowledge for better judgment, more expertise for better solutions, that is wisdom. When you have learned to make a life, not just a living, then that is wisdom. By this yardstick, this book contains the eminently practical wisdom of 50 personalities. Because beautiful, talented young people are accidents of nature. But as Eleanor Roosevelt said, old people are works of art, created by capability and immense capacities, honed fine by experience, and polished by wisdom. This book contains 50 works of wisdom. But also, in conclusion, let me strike a note of caution. Wisdom doesn't come automatically with age. Nothing comes automatically except wrinkles. It is true that some wines become better with age, but only if the grapes are good in the first place, like all the contributors of this book. So on that happy note of wine and grapes, I rest my case, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meera Khanna. And now I invite Devaki Jain to speak on gender and aging. And she is joining us virtually from Bangalore. Devaki Jain is an economist, gender rights activist, writer and speaker and researcher. And she has founded the Development Alternatives for Women for a New Era, DAWN, a third world network of women's socialist scientists, and Institute of Social Studies Trust, IISST, a research center in Delhi. She has been a visiting fellow at Harvard University, Boston University, University of Sussex, SAIS, and Oxford University, and has published more than 10 books related to the development with women and more than 100 published papers in the same issue. She was awarded the Padma Bhushan by the President of India. Devaki Jain.
Thank you, Devaki. After that, I just want to say that really the mantra for positive aging comes from Mohini Giri. Just look at what she has put together. I'm sitting here in Bangalore watching the IIC and the huge multi-dimensional program. So if anybody wants to know what is the mantra for positive aging,
just watch Mohini, whom I've known for some time, and learn. So, many congratulations. It's a brilliant, wonderful event you put together, apart from bringing together this book. It's been a privilege for me to work with you and to participate in this book. And I know I've been described as a feminist who gives some kind of feminist idea, but I want to take you over another journey in just 5 minutes, because I think we cannot separate the idea of aging or the aging experience from the circumstances in which we live. So we have to tether it in the income group, in the caste group, because everything, health, food, health services, all are very different, whether we are like I am, upper middle class woman, or somebody living in the periphery of Delhi in those habits. So one first round, I would feel that we do have to do what is called a class analysis. This has to be related to economic level, exposure to opportunity, environment, and so forth. Education is the third part of the ladder of steps in which one can locate an issue like how one responds to aging. Further, there's an often unarticulated, extremely important factor in how you age, and that is hereditary. I want to pause on heredity, and if any of you have remember or have read the book, there's a book called The Gene, An Intimate History, written by Siddhartha Mukherjee. I know it's expensive, but I suggest that everybody borrows it from whatever library you're in. Here, he shows that the genetic history of all of us is what determines how long we live, and it's an extremely important factor. So I want to go down. So class, caste, genetics, history, all play a role in the experience of aging. I would also add that unless one takes note of this bundle of factors, to give merely advice on how to age gracefully would not only be inappropriate but cruel. Speaking of myself, while others note at the age of 87, I'm still able to walk, think, write. It is not due to my own efforts. These were gifts that I've received because of my genetic history, not only from my father, who lived up to the age of 100, but his sisters, who were in deep poverty, also lived up to 95, 97. His cousins, some of them who were really very, very deprived in faraway villages in Tamil Nadu, very few health services, lived up to their 90s. So, in a way, I want to argue that genetics is very important in talking of aging. And someone who is now 87 and is in many ways as strong and as capable as she was, say, 10 years ago, it has been a question in my mind also, how is it that I am still in this shape and form? Well, again, the answer lies in regular exercises. I did not know yoga. I did not take regular walks. I did not have multivitamin tablets. So I argue that what I am today is relatively capable of mind and age is entirely genetic. Do I do anything to maintain them? I know. No particular tablets, but I'm told there are yoga practices that can ensure it is maintained, especially the mind. I'm told that pranayama can be a great help if the mind is failing. But always having been a very undisciplined person, someone who did not have any particular regime, any particular diet, any particular methods of maintaining herself to be able to come to some grips with the discipline, the regimen of the age of 87 seems quite a challenge. However, most of us who are mentally capable of elderly stages of our life would not like to be exposed to what can be called a humiliating experience, to have amnesia or Alzheimer's. On the other hand, one would like to have as much compassion and care for elders who have this declining attribute. The hitch and the Achilles heel in all this, of course, is economic well being. That without having this genetic gift that we have in my family, there are people who have lived well and lived long, and is usually related to having good nutrition, access to health services, enough financial capability to pay for health services. It is also to have children and relatives who are caring and enable people to live good lives till they'll die. Thus, one cannot give any kind of advice or even offer a model on aging gracefully without linking it to economic base, genetic base, and opportunity. The feminine mystique, which you must have read, describes age as a source of inequality, wherein Betty Friedan could not recognize it until she became aged. So gender aging, even though many of the diseases or conditions common to a later life are experienced by both men and women, the actual rates, trends, and specific differs between sexes. While some of these differences are the result of physiological differences, a fully understand aging and health, a gender perspective is required. Gender can be understood as the complex and differing patterns and roles and responsibilities, norms, values, freedoms, and limitations that define what is called masculine and feminine throughout the life course, and which all play a role as determinants of aging. However, in most countries, the combination of various health and social factors results in a lower quality of life for women in later life. As a study by the Harvard Medical School states that men's hearts age differently than women's. As widowers, older men tend to be more isolated than women who are old due to perceived lack of male skills in developing social and familial ties, as claimed by a report written by the World Health Organization. So, though men and women tend to age in a similar fashion, however, before the age of 50, women age twice as fast as that of a man. This is a finding of the study published in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology. Given, however, the advancement in technology, the anti-aging health and medical products, the market is growing very rapidly for both in industrialized and developing nations, thus masking the fact that women are aging and that entire industries have helped to create a market for anti-aging products. So I come back to my original thesis that much of good health or bad health, much of the fact that we may have depleting diseases like diabetes or asthma is genetic. And we have to work hard between the ages of 40 and 50 when these genetic troubles begin to avoid them. There are, of course, many ideas and practices, prescriptions that are afloat on how to avoid deterioration of anything in the mind and body. I still think that some of the practices suggested by yoga are perhaps the best in terms of medication. I think some of our traditional ideas are most valuable. For example, the use of haldi, the use of methi. Methi is supposed to have an impact in terms of staggering, if not holding back, the onslaught of diabetes. Haldi is not only a disinfectant, but a barrier to disease. So I believe in all those. And for coughs and throats, boiling haldi with milk, masala chai is a great chai. And so it comes from an Ayurvedic backdrop. You may say, why am I talking about these things? I think in the book, we are talking of aging and how aging can be both exciting as well as very, very troubling. And I always feel sorry about age. I often wonder what will happen to me if I get dementia. Will my sons put me in a home where I'll be with other people with dementia? If I'm in that home, there'll be a problem. I may do silly things. So I think women and aging is a particular issue. And I think the reason why I like what Mohini is doing is, if you look at widows, which is where she's concentrated much of her energy in the previous decades, and you look at how their lives have opened up, many people in the Banaras home of widows do in fact have dementia, because your loneliness, your feeling of being thrown out often by the house, loss of everything that you ever brought up. So there are psychological, sociological, and economic reasons why aging can be a threat. On the other hand, aging can be beautiful, like in my case, in Fali Nariman, see him, I feel, well, there he is, bright as a button and white haired like me. So this is a thing. And I want to end by saying that if you want to study how to age gracefully and be a socially useful person, just look at Mohini Giri. You don't have to read any book. I think she's done exactly what we would all like all the rest of the aged women to do. Thank you so much, Mohini, for inviting me to this extraordinary.
Thank you so much. And now I invite Bhina Sikri to speak on aging impactfully. Professor Bhina Sikri, academician, diplomat, writer, and speaker, served as the Director General of the ICCR and Ambassador to Bangladesh, among her many prestigious positions. She is a professor of the Ford Foundation, Endowed Chair, PN Bangladesh Studies in Jamia Millia University, and is vice chairperson of the South Asia Foundation. So could we have Professor Bhina Sikri, please?
Good evening, dear friends. It is a very, very special honor to be here. And I would like to really thank Dr. Mohini Giri for inviting me to speak here. Dr. Karan Singh and Dr. Mohini Giri are two inspiring figures in my life. I've always looked up to their work, been inspired by it, and really learned so much about what I should do with it. The book that Dr. Mohini Giri and Ms. Meera Khanna have brought out is truly an inspirational effort. I've been reading it over the last few days, and it puts you on cloud nine. The foreword by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the energy and the feeling that have gone into the articles, into the expressions of the lives of so many great people, has been a tremendous expression. I congratulate them for this, for doing this. I'd like to say that, getting old is mandatory. Nobody can get away from it. Looking older is inevitable. You can't do anything about that. The white hair is a badge of honor. For me, the white hair is a badge of liberation from the bondage of the beauty saloon. I don't have to bother anymore. So while, getting older is mandatory, looking older is inevitable, but there's a third aspect. Feeling older is optional. So that is the option that we all have to exercise. We do not feel old. And I think that Dr. Karan Singh and Dr. Mohini Giri epitomize this. That they do not feel old at all. And they make us feel young by what they say and what they do and how they express themselves to the rest of the world. So this is the real inspiring journey that I follow. And after a lifetime in government service, I decided to give back to society. And that has what has given me this real sense of joy and doing something for others. And when I left service and I was in Jamia Millia Islamia, I set up the organization called the South Asia Women's Network. And we brought together leading women, grassroots workers, ministers, members of parliament, media representatives, writers, and creative people from 9 countries. All the 8 members of SAARC and plus Myanmar. Now we get together, we discuss the problems of women. We've done very good projects. And by getting together, just by sharing our experiences, all of us feel so enlightened and rejuvenated and determined to overcome the problems. Dr. Meera Shiva, who is here with us, she's a very dynamic and active member of SWAN, and I really thank her for being here because she tells us so much about it. But what is SWAN really all about? We're looking at sustainable development for the women of South Asia. The Sustainable Development Goals are known to everybody. But what we in SWAN are convinced about, that unless you give women the central agency, the leadership, the voice, the participation, you cannot achieve these goals. Whether it is malnutrition, whether it is overcoming the problems of environment or education or the problems of just livelihoods and finance, you have to give women a full participation in what they do with their lives and their careers. And that is what, when we discussed all this, you come to the conclusion that what is preventing women from getting this role? It is a patriarchal mindset. It is a patriarchal mindset that keeps women boxed into a certain position and prevents them from achieving this centrality and activity that they should. And that is what keeps the whole society back. And when we look at aging, and when I look at the book, the wonderful experience that's written, the one aspect that strikes me is that it is the women among the elderly who have the much poorer end of the deal. They have the raw end of the deal. Because if you look at the figures that have been put out by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSPI, they put out a study every 10 years on the situation regarding the elderly. They did one in 2011, and there's one that came out in 2021, just a few years ago. And they tried, this is one report I've seen where they've tried to do some gender disaggregation of data. Because one of the problems with all the work that government does is that they're doing the work and you have the reports, but when they assess a program, they never disaggregate it for women and for men. So you do not know if the program that has been conducted is doing as well for women as it is for men. And in the end, when you analyze that, you find that the women are not doing as well in that program. And when you look at the figures about aging that they put out, you really do realize that women are doing very poorly. on the issue of aging and the elderly. And that is why I appreciate even much more what Dr. Mohini Giri has been telling us, that what she has been doing for widows and the elderly. And we see that aspects like financial dependency among the women of the elderly, the financial dependency ratio, you find that if 65% of all aged people are economically dependent, then among them, only 20% of the women are economically free. The rest, 80%, are economically fully dependent. So they've lived their lives, but they remain at the end totally dependent on others. And because women live much older, have a longer life expectancy than men, so they outlive many of their husbands, and they are alone at the end of it, dependent perhaps on their children, perhaps on others. And of course, I think, again, here the work of Dr. Mohini Giri and the Guild for Service helps them a lot. Now, what happens? Why is it like this? Why is it like this? Because take the basic factors, literacy. Literacy among women is much poorer than among men. And if you go to the elderly, it is much, much worse. So if you see that hardly 28% of the women elderly have any kind of literacy or schooling, whereas among the men, the figure is much higher, going up to 60%. So the elderly women are much more vulnerable. They are much more entrenched and likely to face gender discrimination. Their social status is not recognized. Whereas the men, they still, in the patriarchal mindset, they're still given the respect as the head of the family. It is very, very rare indeed to find that women have this respect of the family. So this is the aspect that I think we in SWAN also would like to work on a lot. And how do we overcome it? I think the respect for women has to be inculcated among the youth, at the primary school level, at the secondary school level. Teach them respect for women of all ages. Teach them to respect their mothers and sisters and their aunts and uncles, so that when they grow up, they will continue that respect and not forget about those people, their grandmothers who have brought them up. This is actually our message, and this is what the advocacy that we would like to do in SWAN with community leaders, that the elderly have their rights, and it is the responsibility of the younger generation to look after them. And so with these very few words, I would say that we would like to put this aspect of respect for the elderly in the school curriculum. We would like it to go into the school curriculum, and so that the people youngsters learn about it and bring it as part of their lives. It's not something special. It should be part of their growing up. It should be part of their value systems. And this is what we would like very much. And I think we have to be inspired by the work that Dr. Mohini Giri and others are doing, and we respect it, and we request them to continue their work. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me and allowing me to say these few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhina ji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now I invite Dr. Karan Singh, chief guest, to address our audience. Dr. Karan Singh, politician.
Everybody knows who I am. Don't introduce me. We're already late.
Very well.
Thank you, Beta.
Myself, I'd like to comment one thing before you do. Many years ago, Dr. Karan Singh was 36 years old. The youngest chief minister, youngest health minister of India. Can you imagine? And I was 10 years younger than him, or 8 years younger than him. And I was in the women's movement. And there was a newspaper that day in the morning to say that smallpox has been eradicated from this country totally. And lo and behold, the women of India stood up, and we all went to Dr. Karan Singh.
Yes,
and we said, how can you say that there are 5 people dead in Uttarakhand? And he told me, in millions of people in India, does 5 really count anything? Tell me that. After that, I said, what a foolish girl I was to go. I was also 28 or 27 at that time. And I really felt bad. Can I apologize for you?
The authors of this excellent anthology, Dr. Mohini Giri and Srimati Meera Khanna, and Bhina Sikri, whom I've known for many years, my dear friends Fali Nariman and Devaki Jain on the virtual net. Let me assure you that Mohini ji is as vivacious today as she was when she met me 52 years ago. And I must congratulate you, Mohini ji, on what you've done. It's really quite extraordinary. if you look through the annual report, which is before me, of the Guild of Service, it's amazing the range of the work that they've done and their coverage, geographical coverage and social coverage and all. I think it is really a tremendous achievement, Mohini, for 50 years that you've done. And you will always be remembered for this work that you are doing. I was particularly impressed by your emphasis on women and children, the point that Bhina just made, because they are usually the most vulnerable sections of society and often get left out in all these programs and policies. They're the most vulnerable sections of society. And by the way, Mohini ji also started the War Widows Association, which again is an excellent organization, because there are so many war widows now. We've fought many wars. There are thousands of war widows, and there must be somebody who looks after them or who cares for them or who is interested in them. Now, aging is a universal phenomenon, as everybody has said, for which every adult should be prepared. Approaching it with fear and dread is the worst possible thing to do. Because if you're afraid, then you attract the thing from which you're afraid. As Job said, what I have feared has come upon me. So if you keep fearing, then you're more likely to be hit by those very things that you're afraid of. And I must say, in this fascinating book, a lot of very interesting, I haven't read it all. I've read a few articles. So many people whom I know, so many people with whom I have worked. It is really an extraordinary book. And I think it will help anybody who reads it. Now, I want to go through very quickly, because I know we're getting late, and this is my first function after a year and a half in India International Center. But my first physical, I've done so many webinars. Murli, my dear friend, I must greet you also. I've done so many webinars during this period. I've become an expert. क्योंकि मैं अपनी कुर्सी पे बैठा रहता, I don't move an inch, और वहीं वो करके suits me perfectly. You don't have to get into a car and walk out and walk up steps and mic चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है, पानी है कि नहीं, मजे से बैठे अपने घर पे. I am very pro webinar, I must tell you. And I was very tempted to have to say no to this, but because it was Mohini, I couldn't possibly refuse, as you know. Now, let me go through very quickly what I've said in my book. I've identified 5 dimensions of age. 5 dimensions. First, of course, is chronological age. That you can't change, at least not legally, unless you want to fudge your examination paper and all. It's a criminal act to try and change your birth certificate. I still have mine, by the way, which is in French, because I was born in France. So the chronological age is there. You can't change it. Then there's what I would call physiological age. Whenever I speak to younger adults, I tell them that what they do in their youth will determine to a very large extent what they will do or what they will look like when they're old, or whether they will get old at all or not, or whether they will go before that. For example, smoking is an antisocial act. It poisons not only the smoker, but the people around them. And people who indulge in that are asking for trouble. Their lungs are going to give way. Alcohol, all right, in moderation is fine. But let me tell you, slipping imperceptibly from social drinking into alcoholism is very easy. People don't realize, no, मैं तो कभी-कभी पीता हूँ, मैं तो थोड़ा पीता हूँ, beer पीता हूँ. Ultimately, before you know what's happening, you become an alcoholic. And that can hit your liver, and it can do a lot of damage psychologically. Then obesity, overeating. I must say that's quite prevalent in Delhi. Punjabi de सारे खूब डट के खाते ना जी, उन्होंने कोई डर नहीं होता, वो देसी घ्यो खाते था होता है. लेकिन ये है कि they tend to be overweight, and obesity is really a big headache. It's not good for you. Because if you're very fat when you're young, then you're not going to affect your health. So overeating, as I said, smoke, all of these lifestyle points will show how you will grow old. If you do indulge in any one or more of these, sooner or later they will hit you back at some point in time. So that is what I call physiological age. There are people who are old at 40, or there are people who are young perhaps at 80. Then there's emotional age. You see, the emotions are very important. People don't realize the importance of emotions. For example, anger and rage and jealousy and hatred and all. These emotions are corrosive emotions. They destroy the mind. And along with the mind, they also destroy the body. Therefore, one has got to develop positive emotions of love and of caring and of togetherness and of giving. That is a very important point. That is where our educational system doesn't deal with the emotions at all. The emotions are not something which are supposed to be talked about. They are brushed under the table. You cannot brush them under the table. If you grow up in hatred, you will spend your life in hatred. You will never be able to transcend that hatred. I'm working in the interfaith movement for half a century. What we're trying to do is to get over the hatreds for the prototypes of various religions. And now, recently, Mohini, I don't know whether you've heard or not, that there's this new concept of neuroplasticity, which means that the neurons of our brain are not fixed forever. They can be influenced at any age through music, through various mechanisms. That is why हमारे यहाँ कहते हैं जब बच्चा छोटा हो, there should be good music. Even when the child is in the mother's womb, there should be soothing music and all. We've understood this. Our ancients understood that if you have a soothing and relaxing atmosphere, the child will grow well. Even for sleeping. So therefore, the emotional age, I mean, some people fly into a rage at the slightest thing. If you get held up at a red light, gaaliyan kaddi jao ji. Because why? What are this? What is the point? What are you trying to gain? It's not going to help that red light go quicker than you think. You're just poisoning yourself by all the galis that you are nikaloing. So therefore, this capacity to balance one's emotions, I think, is tremendously important for as you grow older. So chronological age, physiological age, intellectual age, the capacity to absorb knowledge, the capacity not only to stuff your head, but to absorb new ideas. For example, for people like us now, so much new has happened. I mean, when we grew up, there was no television. If you tell a teenager today that the human race existed for 5,000 years without a mobile phone, they won't believe you. Because for them, the mobile phone is a breath of life. We all grew up without mobile phones, for God's sake. I had a Delhi University record without a mobile phone or television. And you've got to use your mind also. The capacity to absorb, ano bhadra kritavo yantu vishwataha, let noble thoughts come to us from every side, is our tradition, is our culture. And therefore, as we grow, we must start absorbing knowledge. The capacity to absorb knowledge creatively. Not always to reject anything that may be new. Everything is new for us. Space travel is new. I saw the Yuri Gagarin. I met him when he came to India. I met Armstrong, the man who walked on the moon. I've met all these people. I've met Nelson Mandela and all these, iconic people. I've met them all. I've seen them. And this all happened in our lifetimes. And therefore, intellectual age is the capacity to absorb knowledge and to be prepared to learn again. Remember one saying, you do not grow old. When you stop growing, you become old. So you've got to grow intellectually. You've got to grow all the time. Every day you've got to grow, because the mind has an unlimited capacity to grow, and that must be done. And then fifth dimension is spiritual age, and that, of course, is beyond time. Kala atita. The spiritual quest is always there. If people have not at all begun a spiritual quest, it is time to begin now. Better late than never. So the point is that the spiritual quest, I'm not talking of any particular type of spirituality, whatever it is you have to have some spiritual dimension in your life. You can't go through your life just whizzing past, as Shankaracharya says, Dinamapi Rajani Sayam Pratah, Shishara Vasantau Punarayatah, Kalaha Kridati Gachati Ayu, Tadapina Munchati Ashabai. And days come, Subh hoti hai, Sham hoti hai, Umad yuhi tamam hoti hai. That's not the way to live. You must have a spiritual goal. चाहे भक्ति करें, चाहे ज्ञान करें, चाहे कर्म योग करें, whatever, do physical yoga, whatever. कुछ तो करो. For God's sake, try and get into your deeper self. Don't just skim the surface of your life. So these are the 5 dimensions that I put forward. I've very briefly put them before you now. But we have to meet aging with a positive attitude. I must say, by God's grace, by Lord Shiva's grace, at 90, I feel myself stronger in several of these capacities than I did earlier. For example, so emotionally and intellectually and spiritually, perhaps. So I now, by the way, I have a great granddaughter for the first time. That was my 90th birthday present by my grandchildren. I have a great granddaughter now. So again, Mohini ji, warm congratulations. Very well done, you and Meera. What a beautiful book you have produced, and the publisher. And we must approach aging in a positive manner. We must also approach death in a positive manner, but that will require a separate volume. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Before we say the vote of thanks, I would like to recognize our compare today, who is also a member of the Guild of Service. Vani Vyas.
I'm sorry I didn't make you introduce.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And also happens to be my niece. Vani, thank you.
And now I request Dr. Usha Munshi to please give the vote of thanks. And she's currently serving as the Chief Librarian, IIC, a Fulbright Scholar, and has received many, and she's served at many prestigious organizations. I request Dr. Munshi to please come and give the vote of thanks.
Well, I know this paucity of time. I'm going to wrap up very, very quickly. Honorable Dr. Karan Singh, the chief guest of the evening, Dr. Mohini Giri, Founder Chair Guild, Ms. Devaki Jain, Ms. Bhina Sikri, Meera ji, Chief Ali Nariman, Professor Guptara, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. I have been given this opportunity of wrapping up the session and acknowledge with appreciation all those who have contributed for the success of this event. At the outset, I, on behalf of India International Center, would like to congratulate the Guild of Service on its 50th anniversary and its half a century journey towards women's empowerment and social justice. Congratulations, ma'am. Aging is said to be a progressive, deleterious, and intrinsic phenomenon in an organism. However, Dr. Karan Singh mentioned 5 dimensions, and I'm here going to, of course, I'll come to that, but I'm going to give 3 dimensions of aging: biological, psychological, and social. Although the psychology of aging may be considered without regard to biological and social forces, it is best viewed as both a biological and a social science, reflecting the fact that the way in which individuals are transformed over time is a function of a complex field of biological and environmental forces. Corroborating to this, the Buddhists believe that there are 3 characteristics or 3 marks of existence that are common across everything in life, called dukkha, ananta, and anika, which leads to dhamma or dharma. Dukkha, frustration or dissatisfaction, where life does not necessarily provide people with what they want and things are always changing. Anatta, egolessness, There is no fixed sense of self because everything is constantly changing. And anika, impermanence. Things in life are always changing, thus is transient. Nothing stays the same as everything is subject to change. Inherently, these three dimensions and existence reflect transformative phenomenon. Precisely from birth to the final journey, we are all subject to change our form from a newly born to a toddler, to youth, to middle age, and old age. And this change is inevitable, yet a constant. But how divinely we age is what matters. After all, age is just a number, as Mohini ji in the prologue has mentioned this. And as Mark Twain has said that age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Therefore, aging is an extraordinary process where you become the person you always should have been. And also, it is not where you are in life. It is who you have by your side that matters. These dimensions and existence are beautifully reflected in this book in 50 mystically magical shades portrayed by the distinguished contributors from distinct walks of life. The flavor we get from these iconic writers is that you are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. Dr. Karan Singh has eruditely and magnificently given 5 dimensions of aging that encompasses whole gamut of issues and facets, easy to understand and absorb. So many authors like Janaki ji, Veena ji, Shrifali Nariman ji and others eloquently focused on various contours of aging gracefully and the wisdom and experience of the elderly population. The articulative prologue of Dr. Giri says it all in a very lucid and cogent expression. Feeling gratitude and not expressing is like wrapping a present and not giving it. My profound gratitude to the esteemed Dr. Karan Singh ji for agreeing to be with us and share his words of wisdom and encouragement. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. Sincere gratitude to Dr. V. Mohini Giri and Miss Meera Khanna for gifting the society such a wonderful volume. And to all the distinguished authors for presenting splendid, opulent, and assorted platter of thoughts and viewpoints. To the architect of the book, the publisher, Pippa Rann, and in particular to Professor Guptara, a big thank you to you all. Renee Singh, thank you for taking us to a different world with your rendition, which was transcendently delightful and mystic. My gratitude and deep sense of appreciation to the august gathering present here and those who have joined us virtually.
Now,
But not the
can
least.
we name them? Shanno Khurana ji, हमारे brother Sajjanath ji, Padma Venkatraman, Dr. Mohinder Singh, Mr. Basin, George Matthews, Murli Bhai, Murli Bhandare ji, Bahuguna ji, Sundarlal Bahuguna ji, Asha. Is that, have I missed? Where's Matthew? Matthew.
And Aruna and Zina
Aruna and Zina have gone. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you. Oh, she's come back? Okay.
Last but not the least, to all the senior citizens of the world in whose honor we are celebrating today's International Day of Older Persons, whose experience and wisdom is a great resource base to create a better future. If we don't create a future, the present continues and becomes stale. Therefore, change is constant and needed for the sustainable development. With this, I thank you all once again for your contributions and participation. I will not say goodbye. I'll say good night and see you soon.
May I recognize Damayanti Tambe here, whose husband is in the jail of Pakistan since the past 50 years. May we stand for 1 minute and say Janaganamana? Thank you.
Somebody should thank Mohini. Somebody should do a collective thank you to Mohini.
Thank you. Janagana mana adhinayak jaya he Bharat bhagya vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkal Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Ujjwala Jaladhi Taranga Tava Shubha Name Jage Tava Shubha Shisha Mage Gaye Tava Jaya Gatha Janagana Mangala Dayak Jaya he Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Jaya he Jaya he Jaya he Jaya 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 he. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being here today.
Giri. 3 cheers for Mohini Giri.
Each one of you.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you.
Bye, Father.
Thank you. Thank you.
बंद कर दो